Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This video will be about the Demoscene. It is the third video that I'm going to do of the pick a topic, any topic tier for my Patreon. You can check out more information on it on patreon.com/psenough. So the topic for this month is about technology versus design in the Demoscene. So for people who don't know the Demoscene, it's a computer culture that popped up around the late 80s. Related to computers, obviously, mostly the Commodore 64, the Apple II, the Spectrums, the Amigas, the Ataris that were popping up at the time, home computers that became the standard available to the masses. So what people did was the young kids back then couldn't afford to buy games, they didn't have enough money, so they swapped discs around a lot, and the discs became harder to swap because they were starting to have copy protection on them. So groups of kids would gather around and try to circumvent those copy protections to still be able to trade the games and become the most popular group on their neighborhood to distribute the best number of games. So this culture of cracking those games ended up turning into the Demoscene by a weird, strange reason. And the weird, strange reason was that kids wanted to have animations in the beginning of their crack throws, saying who did the crack throw. So usually you had a screen with an effect and a scroller explaining who did this crack, why they are the best group around, and how all the other groups suck. And those kind of things, maybe inviting you to call a BBS and get their releases early or to attend the next party. So these little animations that showed up were called intros and were typically very small in size because they had to fit the discs and you had limited disc size. So as the late 80s ended and the 90s showed up, the Demoscene started taking life of its own, apart from the cracking scene and the pirate scene. We had regular demo parties with events, and to symbolize the size restrictions of those early intros, we had competitions of where the executable could not exceed a certain size, and the most popularized categories became the 4 kilobyte competition, the 64 kilobyte competition. In the Amiga they had a 40 kilobyte competition a lot as well. They also had this thing called the Bootblock, so that the intro would have to run on the Bootblock part of the disk. This was mostly on the Amiga. So yeah, a lot of these size-constricted categories showed up, and people in the Demoscene rivaled a lot on who could optimize for size better, but also who could do the best technology. Especially in the beginning of the 90s, you could see a lot of demos where people would try to show what their engine could do. Like at this time, the 3D engine was 3D engines with 3D graphics were very new. A lot of people were doing wireframe, but not that many people were doing advanced shading. So you could see a lot of demos, like the X Project from Realtek, Dope from Complex, the demo from Noon. All of these demos try to show technical advances. So there is always this rivalry between the technical aspect of the demo and the more design approach to what the demo should be, what kind of message the demo should be passing along. And this wasn't only about 3D engines or size that the intro would take. People also rival on the number of sprites that you could put on screen. There were challenges set from group to group. Who could have the better looking checkerboard effect with the lowest screen, the highest screen resolution possible. All of these things showed technique to get the most out of the hardware, and Demoscene became very known for this, especially in the early 90s. It's common knowledge that the technology that you would see on the demos was largely superior to most technology that you would see on video games. As the years went by, studios started to invest more into their game engines. So nowadays it's not really true, but you can still see a lot of examples of Demoscene people who do demos for the sake of surpassing certain technological aspects, either on the pixel shaders, trying to put Fairlight is very known for trying to get the most particles out of 3D acceleration, for example, but they also try to have a design element on their demos, so that there's like a little trade-off between both worlds. That's very common even nowadays on the demo scene. Especially after the 90s, there was the big boom when demos and intros became more about design and less about technological aspects. There were a lot of flame wars during the 2000 years, during the years of the 2000 decade, about the importance of the technological aspect, because we still have a lot of people involved in the demo scene who only love it mostly because of the technological aspect, trying to do their own engines, pulling their engines to the maximum. They think all graphics should be made purely with code. If you are importing assets from artists, you are cheating, it's not true demo scene, things like that. So there are a lot of zealots of technology-based stuff in the demo scene. Nowadays, demos aren't that much of a battleground for technological achievement, because you can't really compete with what game development studios are doing, like the rendering engines on Doom and Unreal Engine. They all surpass most of the things that demo sceners can do by like 1-2 people alone. So people are focusing more their technological achievement on size-limited intros that we discussed before. The 4K, the 64K, those are the main battlegrounds for technological achievement, not just putting a lot of stuff in it, but finding new techniques and ways to do it. Like, it's not uncommon that you have new soft synths that you could use for using 4K, everything procedurally, having everything procedurally done inside a 64K was also one of the big milestones that popularized Workzoid from Farbrush, for example. Not the popular demo, the product that they did was one of the first 64Ks that really showed the potential of having everything procedurally generated, from textures to models to sounds. So a lot of those battles of technology versus design are going on mostly in the size-limited competitions nowadays. Also, the tools that were developed, you have better packers. There is Crinkler now that you can pack your 4Ks or 1Ks better. Before that, there was a lot of development also for 64Ks. Like you had Crunchy, you had APAC, you had UPX, you had a lot of different packers that existed, and the demo scene pushed a lot to that front and trying to find the best packers. There are a lot of fights against the virus, antivirus industry lobbyists, because they flag everything that is packed by default. They think it's a virus, while it's completely legitimate if you want to pack your game, or in this case executable under the demo scene, with a packer that is available like anywhere on the internet. Just because you are packing your executable doesn't mean you are running malicious code. It's just harder for those programs, softwares to scan it. And therefore there are a lot of false positives within the demo scene claiming that they are virus while they are not. So, but this is a topic for another video. This video was supposed to be focused on technology versus design. So I have been showing a few demos down here that you see that try to break this mold of technology versus design. I don't know what else more I can say about it. There are still a lot of people who focus on technology. There are still a lot of people who don't care about technology at all and just want to do stuff with horses, for example, because they can, and just want to have fun in the demo scene. And that's a very important part of the demo scene as well. You are free to do whatever kind of demos you like. If you want to explore technology, you can do that. People will applaud you for that. If you want to just use technology and express yourself, either in a funny way or a creative way or an artistic way, you're also free to do that, and there are a lot of people in the demo scene that will also applaud that. So it's a mix between those two worlds, and it's one of the things that makes demo scene interesting, at least in my point of view. And I think plenty of the demo sceners agree with me there. So yeah, so either if you're interested in making a demo that is technologically superior, or if you're just looking to make something fun, go for it, you know, make a demo about it. There are a lot of people who focus on older machines to have more of a challenge in terms of what limits the hardware has. So when they have that limit, they try to abuse it to the maximum. So you've seen a little bit of a research on the Commodore scene, on the Atari scene, CPC, the Spectrum. All of them seem to have that period where there was a hype of demos, number of demos released, then it kind of died out as the people moved on either to PC or just retired, and now there's a small peak of more people doing stuff, and those people, they go very bipolar. Either they completely try to break limits of what the demo can do technologically, and other people just focus completely on design and having fun. So it's hard to find a balance between those two, but you can see a lot of demo scene productions who still have that. And I will show a few examples of the Commodore 64 scene, of the Spectrum scene, that really make that shine through. Yeah, what else is there left to say? There are still challenges for technological aspects right now, like for example the Checkerboard challenge that was just released or launched a few weeks ago. It's a challenge for you to do the best checkerboard you can possibly under these certain constraints. For the Amiga, people say that it's possible to have 6 planes of checkerboards. You know, try to make it look good and deliver it at the next GURP party, which I believe is in February. So, and you can see who has the best checkerboard effect, full screen on the Amiga. So there are a lot of those kind of compos that get launched now and again, so feel free to participate in them. If you don't know where to get started doing stuff for the demo scene, I advise you to read this small book guide that I wrote called 14 Days, How to Become a Demo Scener in 14 Days. So it's a small guide for you to get used to what you can do. And if you're already a demo scener, then you just find the references cool and you don't really care about these things. So I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else left to say about technology versus design on the demo scene. Thank you everybody for watching the show. If you want to support me on Patreon, don't forget to go to patreon.com/psenough. Check out the tiers that are available. See you next video. Bye bye. Take care.